Jazz and Beyond,
where the standards are always hot
and the mood's just right.
On 702
and CapeTalk.
Jazz and Beyond, where you come for the jazz, you stay for a good time, and welcome to the second hour. And of course, those comments and voice notes, as always, are welcome. 072 702 1702 here on Radio 702, and on CapeTalk, it's 072 567 1567. If you're just joining us now, this is the moment when we are chatting to one of South Africa's top musicians, jazz musicians, guitarist. He's a lecturer. He has traveled the world and played with every musician you can think of and performed in a lot of jazz festivals around the world, from the Netherlands to the North Sea to Cape Town to Jazz to wherever you can think of. He has performed there and played with some of the best musicians. He's got a brand new project out. He calls it Allegories. He'll tell me if I'm saying that right. And he's got a band called In Motion that he has just returned from, I almost said a worldwide tour. Well, worldwide in this country, South Africa. In the first half of July, he has been in Makanda. He has been here in Johannesburg. He's also been out in Cape Town. And of course, performing the music of his brand new project. I'm talking about Vuma Levin. Hello, Vuma.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
You are welcome back on Jazz and Beyond. We're happy to have you. You know, this project, Allegory, am I saying it right? Allegories?
Allegories, yeah.
Oh, Allegories.
Yeah.
Not
correct.
Allegories. Allegories.
Allegories, yeah.
Which means?
An allegory is a type of story, basically. Like a fairy tale could be an allegory.
Yeah.
It's a story in which the contents are presented, but there's always a secondary meaning. So it's usually a metaphor for something bigger than the story itself.
So this particular story is one, I'm told, layered with the history of pre-colonial and also European classical period as well. But I think it's best to start with just understanding, one, how you struck a balance between those two cultures. And I think starting off with, was there actually a specific story or a moment that sparked the idea of you putting up a project of this nature?
Yeah, well, those are two separate questions. I guess on the first question is easier to answer in terms of striking a balance between those two different musical cultures. I think that was relatively easy because we wanted to start from the position of foregrounding the perspective of the global south. So the starting point was trying to investigate musics that were being created around the early pre-colonial period, or the early colonial period rather. And of course that's not really possible because there's no written document of that music. So the closest we could get was basically going to the Hugh Tracy archive and finding transcriptions from there and using that as the basis for creative practice. So that was the starting point, and then from that we extracted creative principles that we applied to Renaissance music of Europe at the time, which there is a written document for, and there are contemporary recorded interpretations of Renaissance music. So that was maybe a bit easier. But again, the starting point was to place at the center, to foreground those traditional indigenous colonial systems of music making. And those were used as the kind of lens through which we reread this Renaissance music and contemporary jazz, basically. So I guess that would answer your first question. In respect to your second question, it was inspired by my reading of a work by Paul Gilroy called The Black Atlantic. And in the second chapter of that book, he deals extensively with an allegory written by Hegel called the Master-Slave Allegory, which I won't go into too much detail here, but in essence, it's an allegory that recounts the relationship between masters and slaves, but from the perspective of, I guess, a Western European white man. And I wanted to take that challenge on, but to restage this encounter between masters and slaves, or in this case, colonizers and colonized, from the perspective of the global south. So the way that we did that musically was, as I just explained, to try and foreground traditional indigenous musics, and to use that to read Renaissance, Western European Renaissance cultures. So, yeah.
Well, when you're doing your research, you talk about transcripts that you use. Was there anything oral? Was there anything, archival music of then recordings maybe that also gave you a sense of what the music sounded like?
Yeah. So when I say transcriptions, I mean we really took recorded material from the early 20th century that Hugh Tracy and basically he went around sub-Saharan Africa making all of these recordings, and they're all housed in ILAM, which is a library in Makanda actually, but those recordings are actually commercially available, so you can buy them online, for instance.
Oh, I see.
So basically we took those recordings and wrote down the sonic material from those recordings and used those as sort of the arranging creative principles for the broader work.
So in the music itself, because I want to play the first song, which is Menace. I'm trying to now reconcile what you've just said.
Yeah, that's hard. You don't really hear it in the music.
In terms of how then it's translated into the music. Because I want to position myself, me and the Jazz and Beyond listeners. Vuma has just told us the inspiration behind this. Now, can we hear what this means in the music and how?
Probably in that song, not, to be
not
honest
in the
with
song.
you.
Okay.
But I guess it's more, especially in a song like Menace, and there's several other compositions of this sort on the album. It's more diffuse than that because a lot of this stuff draws on jazz.
Yes.
And jazz is, of course, a Black Atlantic culture that we can trace as well to this sort of colonial or pre-colonial, Black pre-colonial lineage. The point here is simply to try as much as possible to center the perspective of Black Atlantic cultures, whether they be pre or post-colonial cultures, and rewrite this allegory from the perspective of the people who were colonized or the post-colonized. So rewrite Hegel's allegory from that perspective. So in Menace, you might not be able to hear traditional indigenous music, for instance. In my song 5, you can probably hear that more. In fact, in all
I'll
of
be
my
playing
songs,
that,
you can probably hear it a bit more. But in songs like that, I think it's more about the staging the relationship between contemporary jazz and the music of the Renaissance. Although in that song, it's also kind of difficult to hear the Renaissance because it's like a rock jazz song more than anything else.
Yeah, because you do, there's folk music, there's a bit of rock, and of course the jazz elements and the improvisation of the guitars, yours and what's his name?
Teo.
Teo as well. But let's hear Menace first, and we'll continue the conversation. If you're just joining us, it is Jazz and Beyond with me, Nothemba, on 702 and CapeTalk. And we are joined in studio by Vuma Levin. He's talking about the allegories, his latest project with the group called In Motion that joined him in the tour and in recording this album. This is a track from there called Menace. Jazz and Beyond, Menace, the music of Vuma Levin, who's in studio with us here on 702 and CapeTalk. Who's the Menace here? Because the sound here does give a manic mind, so to speak. Really takes one through a sort of crazy moment and calmness at the same time, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's a wild song.
It is.
For sure.
How do you actually navigate just the complexities of the European classical influence, then of course the South African folk form of music without one overpowering the other? Yeah.
I mean, that's tricky. I think what helped in this project is because it's a co-led ensemble, all of the musicians had to bring in their own compositions for a start. So they had to basically take on the motivating reasons for the project and interpret it in their own way. So for instance, that last song we were listening to was written by the drummer in the band, a Swiss drummer. So I think that already helps to create some sense of balance. But I guess for me, as I said earlier, I've always been interested in emphasizing or using as the starting point our perspective from the global south. So that has always been my kind of starting point, and then everything is read through that. But I think in general, if you're playing jazz music or any kind of music that is influenced by jazz, the lens through which you read and interpret and act out creative practice is automatically mediated by that global south perspective. So even a song like Menace, you would never hear in a madrigal improvisation, and in that song there was a trumpet solo, for example, that was improvised. You would never really hear these very, very short circular song forms. So in that song there were 3 chords that repeated over and over and over again. And you would never really hear that in a madrigal song form, for instance. It would really be an extended vocal song form that doesn't have a lot of repetitions. So there are all sorts of structural things that we take for granted in a way, even in popular music, that we take for granted, that really have their roots in this kind of global south in general, and in particular, I guess, the African perspective.
From which traditions were you sourcing, here in the global south, as you put it? Is it the Nguni?
It was mainly Nguni traditions. So a lot of my research, also for my PhD, revolves around Nguni traditions, bow music especially. I would say all transcriptions except for one, which was like a Sotho choral piece, were Nguni transcriptions, Swazi origin, and also Xhosa origin as well.
Okay. Let's listen to Uvu.
Yes. Uvu is composed by Theo, the guitar player.
The guitar player. Okay, let's listen to it first, and then we'll talk a bit about it. I also want to talk about the choice of collaboration, especially you collaborating with the Swiss. The Swiss are in South Africa, or is it South Africa in Switzerland?
I guess
lately, but it's good things. The track is called Uvu. It's one of the singles that are out from Vuma Levin's album called Allegories, the stories that are being told. There's a story here, and it's a beautiful story. It sounds so good. We must talk about the musicians because clearly they have been chosen for a reason. It's 3 Swiss musicians and 3 South Africans. Two South
Africans, Khonse and myself.
And yourself. And tell me about them, because clearly this collaboration worked for a reason, and why.
It definitely worked. I think, well, first of all, they're fantastic musicians, which is always helpful. I saw you vibing out to Theo's guitar solo on there. So
love his sound. He's got a beautiful tone there.
Sounds great.
He reminds me of somebody, though.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway. Now he's going to remind me of him.
I'll tell him. So basically, I met Theo, I think in 2015. We were both participating in the Montreux International Guitar Competition. And we were both semi-finalists in that competition, and that's how we met. And we kind of formed a friendship from then onwards, not even really playing music together, just hanging, being friends. So that was the basis of our relationship, but he's always a guitar player that I've respected and admired, and just a great human being as well, and really a really great composer of like short form compositions. So these compositions like Uvu, and he has some other ones on the album that are really condensed and compact compositions. And I think I have a bit more of a expansive approach to composition. My compositions can be like 12 minutes long with 3 movements, and it's also nice to have somebody who has a bit more of a minimalist approach, but their music is still very, very interesting and accessible at the same time.
He knows radio in his mind. He's like, we have to have this played.
Exactly. So he's been great to work with. The bassist is actually from Italy. His name's Marco, and he's the bassist that I play with in my normal quintet from Amsterdam. And again, just a friend of mine since like 2009 or something like that. Fantastic bass player, super creative musician, and I think with him it was really about his knowledge of the madrigal form, because that was something that we were working with this album. The drummer Martin I met in 2021. He did a residency here in Johannesburg through Pro Helvetia, and what I really like about Martin, first of all, he's a drummer that can compose, which is kind of rare because drums are more often than not concerned exclusively with the rhythmic components of the music. And he's one of those that knows how to balance all of these elements. But he's also a very free and creative drummer who's very sensitive to dynamics in an ensemble. And I'm quite a structured musician and structured in the way that I direct an ensemble. So again, it's nice to have him as a foil. Him and Marco kind of work together very, very well with that. Matthias is a trumpet player. He's very much a regular in the South African scene. He's played with Bokani Daya. He's toured here since, I think, 2005 or something like that. And again, he has a deep understanding of this Renaissance music that we are working with, but also a very, very deep understanding of the South African context, having worked with several people from here. And then, of course, Khonse, I think it's kind of essential to have in the sound world of the music something that very, very clearly and overtly references Africanicity, so to speak of. Of course, it's maybe a cliche to say that percussion does that, but I think for most people who are not very versed in musical cultures, like if they hear percussion, they instantly think of the global South. So I think like having that in the sound world was very, very important. But I think more than that, the energy that he brings to the ensemble really takes it to another level. We were touring with another percussionist in Switzerland who was great, of course. But to do it with Khonse now in South Africa, it was really an absolute pleasure. And he just pushed all of us to play way better with a lot more energy and in a lot more connected way. And also in a way that connected a lot more with the audience. I mean, he's a fantastic percussionist and also just a really warm and easy guy to get along with. So I think like the blend of personalities, the blend of musical voices, the blend of musical conception, all of these things sort of help to facilitate a very fruitful and productive encounter between us.
You just finished a tour of South Africa, and I'm just curious as to how the audience received the music and whether or not you were in a position to, engage the audience as you perform on these allegories, you know, and these stories, and how the project in itself, or what it's meant to achieve and express as well. Yeah,
I think, I don't know, probably you have, but if you've watched a performance by Nduduzo before, it's really like a lecture recital more than, so there's a lot of engagement with the audience, but really on quite substantive academic themes, but through the music, those themes are made accessible and emotionally immediate.
Sure.
And that was really my aim, and in general with my musical practice, that's always been my aim. And I would say on this tour, we really did manage to do that. But I think what's become more important for me as I've gotten older and as I play more and more in Europe, what I realize what is really valuable about performing in South Africa is the act of co-creation between audience and performer. So for instance, we did a performance on ENCA just for the camera people, and they were dancing and moving to the music and really enjoying it. And afterwards, the trumpet player from Switzerland said, "Wow, that would never happen in Switzerland."
Oh, wow.
And I said, yeah, probably not. And I think I find it really valuable that I think music only has meaning when there is somebody to receive it and embody it and to participate in the act of creating the performance with you.
Yeah.
And that's what I really, really value about South African audiences, that they give you, even if it's only 4 people, they give you the space to do that.
We engage you. We feel you. Yeah. We want to be part of what you're doing, and we want you to know that we are enjoying what you're doing.
It's a beautiful thing.
And also draw us into to this thing that you're doing, because we're there because we want to be part of it. It's like someone was saying, I was having a discussion with someone who was saying that, as South Africans, just make sure there's a sing-along somewhere.
Yeah, definitely, man.
There's a sing-along somewhere with South Africans.
Or a moment where people can dance. It's the same.
Yeah, no, we love that. We all think we can sing, so give us the stage too. This is fantastic. And of course, the album is available online for the full album now.
It's
not just the singles. So where can people who've only just heard the music now and even, just known that you've been performing, where can they see you next?
See me next? Well, I'm I have a project coming up with Riza Kota, fantastic guitar player from Cape Town. We have a 2-guitar project.
Nice.
He interpreted the music of Central African xylophone playing and reinterpreted it for 2 guitars.
Fantastic.
And Juanse and Shane are playing on there. So in September and October, we're going to be doing gigs in Joburg and Cape Town. But in general, the album can be found online. At all sort of Spotify, Apple Music, Bandcamp, etc.
Well, let's wrap it up on the magical.
Yes.
Magical is this track. And what's this one about?
Well, this one is Magical was the original working title, but this one is 5 actually. This is the one we were discussing.
Is this 5?
This one is 5,
Okay, so
on this one we'll be able to hear a bit more clearly the thesis that I presented earlier on, I think. So.
Well, let's get into it. Thank you so much, Vuma.
Thank you so much for
always a
having me.
pleasure to
Yes,
have
it's
you
always
here
been
on
a
Jazz.
pleasure. Thank you.
Come here again for your next project.
I will always be here.
This is 5 from Vuma Levin and In Motion.